This is TWiT.
Today we're going to talk about science.
Well, we were inspired by the eclipse, which is the total eclipse, which is coming next month in 3 weeks, August 21st, right, John? 4 weeks from today. And John, in fact, going up to Oregon to watch it. Totality, which means a total eclipse, the sun will be completely obscured by the moon's shadow, will happen in a band across the United States, which hasn't happened in a while. And almost everybody in the United States will get some eclipse. I was looking, NASA has a map, which you can click on any locale in the U.S., or I guess in the world, and it'll tell you how much of the sun will be obscured. For instance, in San Francisco, it'll be about, here where we are, 71%. In LA, it'll be about 61%. But that's more than you think. There'll just be a little crescent sun here. There's the map of totality, which is kind of cool. And so what's good is that even though you may not be in Oregon or one of the areas where you're going to get a total eclipse, you'll get a pretty good eclipse. Remember not to look at the sun ever, ever, ever. Even, if it's just a little fragment, a sliver, you might think, oh, that's not so bright, but that actually can still burn a hole in your retina. The only time it's completely safe is totality, but that's so risky because it's only total for a minute or two, depending on where you are, and then it won't be. Then it'll start emitting from the other side as the moon moves across. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty exciting. So we thought, let's do some science-y things, including eclipse things for today's show.
Yeah, because on the Screensavers on Saturday, we talked to Nicola Fox, who is a NASA scientist.
Wasn't that fun?
It was great. She told us about their solar probe. They're trying to get to the sun, or they're trying to get to orbit close enough to the sun to do some science. And she said NASA has an app called Globe Observer, and it will allow you to participate in science. You take pictures of the eclipse and then send them so they can see everywhere what's going on. So now, what do you think about aiming your camera at the eclipse, your iPhone camera?
What do I think about it?
Can I aim my camera at the
They
at
say
the eclipse?
now, so John's going to take pictures of the eclipse. You won't see anything. I mean, you can aim your camera, your iPhone at the sun now, and you just get this big flare. And yeah, I guess it protects itself somehow. You wouldn't want to point it there for too long a time. Yeah, I guess you could try to take a picture with your iPhone. And it would certainly, if you're doing that, be safe to look at the iPhone screen. That's not going to be bright enough to hurt your eyes, but never, ever at the sun directly. Okay. And if you have a good camera, you'll probably want to protect it. John has purchased a filter for his camera that has it's basically like a welder's glass. In fact, I think you're going to use a welder's glass because the filters are $150. If you go to B&H Photo, they have a whole article on photographing eclipses, and they tell you what kind of filter. And it's so dark you can't see through it, but you will be able to see the sun. That's how bright the sun is through it. It's welding glass would be another example. If you are going to do photography, one of the things you'll want to know is where to aim it. In fact, the best thing to do if you're going to do even iPhone photography is to kind of plot it out ahead of time. Certainly practice. And then the thing that makes, I think, pictures of the moon or eclipses interesting is not just the picture by itself, but the surroundings. The moon is always more interesting when it's coming up and you see buildings and things like this. This is a program called the Photographer's Ephemeris, TPE. And if you're a serious photographer and you're seriously doing astronomical photography, it's mostly useful, day in, day out for pictures of the moon. This will tell you, this is where we are right now. By the way, $8.99. This is the iPad version. There's an iPhone version. There's also an Android version. And it tells you everything you need to know, for instance, sunrise, moonrise, sunset. And then it has some other things that I don't like, nautical sunset, crescent moon, best at 9:14 p.m. And also, let's see, also what you'll see is angles. So as I'm looking at this, I'm seeing different angles. Now, what we can also do is we can skip ahead in time. And so that may be what you're going to want to do is go to, let's try, shall we go to August 21st?
Yeah.
And see what we're going to see. The eclipse around here will be right about this time of day, actually. And so I can go here, and we can see where the sun will be shining. It'll be shining right over the Dow Pharmaceutical Sciences building.
Awesome.
So that's a great picture. Right there. Actually, the sun will be pretty high, won't it, by then, John? So we may not be able to get any. If you're down low, you'll be able to get something in it. But that's why you need something like this, is to kind of plan it. You see, we can even see that the sun is going to be eclipsed here, which is kind of cool. So this is, this thing has so much information in it. If you're a photographer using ephemeris, that means ephemeris is like tide tables. Using ephemeris from books and so forth may be familiar to you. This is a program that lets you kind of do it. Here's a 3D version, which is kind of neat. Lets you do it on your iPad and plot your sight lines, plot how you're going to shoot that picture to make it an interesting picture. So you'll know you'll have to be facing, and this is the direction the sun will be coming from. So this is what will be in the background. And in fact, here we might have a really interesting shot because the mountains, the Sonoma Mountain is out here. So we might be able to, and this is what you want to do. And if you want to get Sonoma Mountain in the picture, you might have to move over here to Stony Butte to really get that picture with the Sonoma Mountain in the background. This is the kind of app that will help you do that. It is, I think, a really cool way of planning for your eclipse shoot if you want to do it.
Yeah, so the Globe Observer, I have this up on my iPad now. The new app is unlocked August 18th, so not quite yet. But that you can take pictures of the clouds and that sort of thing. So right now you can actually take pictures of clouds and add to science, or take pictures of mosquitoes.
Oh, that would be valuable.
Add to science.
So this is like to become a scientific observer.
Yeah, a helper with science. You capture the data, and you can identify the cloud types, and then you send it up. And so, with all of this crowdsourcing, you can help science.
It is estimated this will be the most photographed eclipse of all time. I think that's a given, just because of the time we live in.
Yeah. I'm just gonna observe it. I'm gonna just be there. Experiencing
it's a fun thing to do. And of course, a lot of kids will be watching it, and they'll be making pinhole cameras, which is fun. You poke a hole in a shoebox, for instance, and then shine it over your shoulder, and you can see the eclipse in the back of the shoebox. But do you remember, maybe you don't, but the last time we had eclipse, which wasn't so long ago, we had a partial eclipse, that when it shines through the tree leaves, they become pinhole cameras, and you may see hundreds of images of the eclipsed crescent sun projected in effect by a tree. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
I am looking forward to it too.
Yeah. More science.
Okay, so similar to the app that I just showed, the Globe Observer that we heard about, there's one called iNaturalist. Have you heard of iNaturalist?
No, that sounds cool.
It helps you identify the science around you, and then again, you can participate in the observations. So it helps. So I took this picture. Let's look observe. So I can click observe. If I'm out in the wilderness, I could take a picture. Let's see if it knows what your hand is. So
wow.
And let's see, what do you see? What's going to load some suggestions?
Do you think it'll recognize a hand on an iPad?
A human.
There's a human.
There you are. Or you're a honeybee or an Asian lady beetle. Perhaps you're an Asian lady beetle.
I could be.
So let's actually take some wilderness, a picture that you can, if I want to enjoy my surroundings, take a bunch of pictures, and then I'm at home later, and let's find some nature here. I took a picture of this sunflower with a bee on it. I'm going to see if it recognizes that. I click next and see what the suggestions are. So it tells me where I took it and everything. And I could either look up the species by name or look sunflowers. So this is pretty good. It recognized the sunflower and the bee on that picture. So then I can learn more about the common sunflower.
That's really a digression. Having looked at my hand, now studying the sunflower and the bee.
Well, that was actually a picture of a sunflower.
Oh, you actually had one.
Yes,
oh.
And there's the Chilean.
I'm sorry, I wasn't following.
I know. You got a little bit distracted. That's okay. And here, I honestly wanted to know. Do you know what this flower is? Don't cheat.
Yeah, that's the honey bucket.
No.
No.
Is that, well, it does look like a honey bucket. It's a foxglove.
That's a foxglove. Don't eat it, kids, unless you're having a heart attack, because it's poisonous.
What if I already ate it?
We'll rush you to the hospital.
Okay, iNaturalist. You can also join projects. So there's all these projects nearby. So I can see, like, look at all these, like McNear School. That's where your kids went. They're working on a project. Petaluma High. So you can see.
Oh, that's neat. These are local schools.
Yeah, and what there's a domestic
cool is
dog.
that?
So obviously people are using this in school. So if you're an educator, this could be helpful so that you can help your students learn about what's on the ground. For example, this isopod.
It's an isopod.
An order of paracarid crustacean.
Oh, we call them, what do we call those?
Pillbugs.
Those are the pillbugs.
Or roly-polies.
Roly-polies, yeah.
Depending on where you grew up, it's either a roly-poly or a
roly-polies, yeah. That's what it's called, an isopod for reals?
Isopod.
How interesting.
The name derives from the Greek roots iso, meaning same.
Same. Iso. It's an isopod.
Do you have anything, or shall I keep going?
Well, I was going to mention the Smithsonian Channel.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are, there's lots of science channels and lots of, there's Discovery and so forth, but most of those require a subscription.
By 1955, Americans are experiencing a golden decade.
This isn't exactly science, but it's kind of fun.
America is the richest country in the world.
Yes. Anyway, this is about the 50s, but this is the Smithsonian Channel, which has a lot of great videos, including a lot of science videos. Let me see if I can find something more scientific here. Evel Knievel's famous Snake River jump. Here, how about UFO evidence? That's pseudoscience. Pseudoscience. So you don't have to have a cable subscription to watch these, which is one of the things I like about this. Also, the length of these varies. So this was a very short one. It's just 2 minutes. But they have full-length shows and shorts and all sorts of stuff. I guess it's fair that this should be free. We paid for it with our tax dollars, right?
True.
So this is the nation's museum, the Smithsonian. And Smithsonian, of course, covers more than just science. But
there's the natural history.
This actually is a great app just to have in case, you get bored. There's all sorts of stuff in here. Shark facts.
It's Shark Week.
It is Shark Week. By the way, spoiler alert, Michael Phelps did not beat that shark on Saturday.
He didn't, nor was he even swimming with the shark.
There wasn't even a shark near him.
No.
It was a time trial. So there you go.
Yeah.
18, how about this? 18 engineering wonders of the world. See, that's fun.
And if you're planning a trip to D.C. And planning on going to any of the museums, download the apps on your iPhone first before you go, because they're super helpful.
Oh, the Smithsonian is so fun, and I especially like the Air and Space Museum, the new Air and Space Museum.
The Udvar-Hazy.
Udvar-Hazy. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yep, Udvar-Hazy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's good to
he's
know.
the rich guy that paid
Apparently,
for it.
there's a cow. Oh, there's an ad in here. That's why it's free. There's a little, but that was a short ad.
Oh, that Geico wasn't part of the United States natural history.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. I have so many.
I know. Why don't you do some more? There's so many good ones.
So science, you can't have science without math, right? Do you agree?
That's right. Science is math applied or something. I don't know.
Have you ever used the MyScript calculator?
Yeah, I love MyScript.
I love the MyScript calculator. Yeah. Okay, so let's just delete that.
Because you write.
Yeah,
and it's really good with the Pro.
387 times 465 equals.
Nice.
Yeah, and then if I want to save that, I can hold it. Let's see. Let's try that again. 4 times 97.
Now, it'll do more sophisticated stuff.
Yes, so I can save that. But yeah, like if I want to do pi times 4 equals...
Nice.
I don't know why I did pi to the third power.
Pi cubed, but it will do powers, which is nice.
Yes, it will. Yeah, you can do, and then you can see like if you regularly make this equation,
it'll do integrals and it'll do other kind of sophisticated stuff, quadratics.
I love this.
It is really well done.
Because I am feeling like a part of hand to paper, or Apple Pencil to iPad is how you learn. Like I feel
it's
like
kind
that,
of natural,
and losing that with just a calculator.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the discussion because my daughter needs a graphing calculator, and I was asking for, for help with that, and everyone was like, "Why do they need that? They have, there's so many apps."
And I think it's because they don't want them to use a phone or a tablet.
Right, because you cheat.
Because you could cheat. But it is a shame, and these are expensive. They're like $100.
Right, and you said you were going to give me one of your old ones.
If I could find one, I will. I'll look around.
It's on video.
There are free graphing calculators, There's so many graphing calculators on the iPad, but I think that's really the reason is that they just don't want you to. I mean, this is in effect. These are in effect HP 85s and other typical that you would buy calculators. However, they don't want you to have access to the rest of the iPad. So there's a TI 84.
Yeah, TI 87 is what I've been told to get. I can keep going.
Keep going. Don't stop.
This is one that you'll probably have more knowledge of than I do. The Wolfram Alpha app.
Love it. And I've recommended this many, many times. This can be also a scientific calculator, by the way. You can ask it all sorts of things. Stephen Wolfram is a super genius, one of the most amazing people alive today. And one of the things they've been doing at Wolfram Alpha for, I think, almost a decade, maybe even more, is entering data into the system. So this is a system that basically is kind of artificial intelligence, machine learning. You can type any query into it, and it will attempt to understand it and then solve it. But it can be simple things like, your name and how many people are named that, and when the peak. If you just type in Megan, you'll see information about that. Not my whole name, but I don't think it's going to do anything. But Leo would do something.
Whoa.
So look, it found the Wikipedia entry. So yeah, it can do that. Here's the frequency. Is that the frequency of
That's your Wikipedia page hits.
Wow.
People don't use Wikipedia anymore. Let's get rid of that.
I love Wolfram Alpha. Now, it's not free. You can use it for free on the web. And I think what he's trying to do with Wolfram Alpha on the iPad is kind of help support the project.
Yeah, well,
this is amazing. I mean, every student should know about Wolfram Alpha and be proficient in using it. There is a little skill involved in creating queries, but that's what you see on the left there is some sample queries to give you an idea of the kinds of things you can ask it. My father-in-law, who was a science teacher in high school, Jennifer's dad, used to love to give us puzzlers. And for instance, he said, well, how much would 1 centimeter of water over an acre weigh? and you're supposed to figure that out in your head. But it turns out you can just ask Wolfram Alpha and it will answer it for you. After I spent a lot of time calculating it, I figured out I could ask Wolfram. So it's great to know.
That brings up a good point. There's been some controversy. Wolfram Alpha has been in the news about some cheating. There was, in the general news, like
smarter than the average bear.
And not only that, like it explains how it got there, right? Because that's what you have with all of our devices and all our calculators and all our iPad apps. We're teaching kids more of how you got there now, right? Not the answer.
Which is appropriate because facts basically are available at the touch of a mouse. But understanding and creating new inferences and new connections is a real skill that only humans at this point are very good at. And so that, this is another thing that my father-in-law said. He said when we gave him an iPad, and he said, "Why?" I mean, he just was blown away by it. And he said if Copernicus had had this, Copernicus spent most of his life creating the instruments to gather facts, the telescopes, grinding lenses, and all of this. If he'd had that, all the information at his fingertips, he could have come to his conclusions and maybe many more much quicker. So we're in that situation these days where we don't have to spend as much time observing. We have facts at our fingertips. Now it's about what you can do with it. So I agree with you on that. Yeah.
But then what about Wolfram? I mean, there was a story in Wired recently about how a math teacher gave students a really difficult problem that she did not expect them to be able to solve, and they had to show their work. And they all showed. No, they did using Wolfram Alpha.
Oh,
because Wolfram Alpha goes from steps to step, but it was all exactly the same.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of like, oh, we have these tools, kids are cheating. But I think, as you know, I'm married to a teacher. Yeah, there's the story.
Yeah.
A good teacher knows when a kid is cheating.
Sure.
Even if, it's like Marco doesn't use all those tools where you cut and paste, sentences or a paragraph from an essay. He knows, like he'll read an essay but he also works at a private school where he doesn't have 30 students in every class. But he knows, like, hey, you're not... Well, you can't. I've seen the work you've done in the past, and this doesn't match it. So I think that's the impetus.
There are
on
also
that is the
great tools for teachers to use. I mean, just as kids have Google, teachers have plagiarism tools. Google's one of them, but they have also software that will find plagiarism.
Right, but then he's also experienced students who have people write their essays for them, like a tutor.
Right.
So that's not going to show up. So you have to know your student. No, but you will
recognize it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons, by the way, you have to buy a TI 87 is because they don't want your kid to have access not only to a graphing calculator on her iPad, but also on Wolfram Alpha.
Right, exactly.
I agree. Wolfram Alpha is a miracle, and everybody should get to know it and use it. Yeah, it's actually just a lot of fun.
Yeah,
search
just
for your
playing
name.
around for it. Yeah.
Or if you want to do comparisons of companies, you could do Apple versus Exxon, for instance. If you just type in Apple versus Exxon, it'll show you the relative strengths, financial strengths of each company. It's very interesting, fascinating stuff. I'm trying to download, but it's very large. So when I started talking about John, my father-in-law, I remember that the program that we showed him that blew him away and made him think about Copernicus was called The Elements. This is one of the very first iPad applications, but it's gigabytes in size, and I'm trying to download it now, and frankly, it's going to take too long.
I can show you the kid version of that if you'd like.
Well, this is probably it, right? Or you have a little kid version.
Little Alchemy. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, no.
So you have all your elements here, and I've actually unlocked a few, and then you get to move them. So if I mix, let's see, ocean and salt. Oh, no, I can't. Oh, ocean. Let's see. If I mix water and fire, I get steam. If I mix earth.
Oh, this is so you could do a chemistry.
Yeah, and the ocean. Oh, I get nothing. I get earth and water. What do I get? Mud. What if I mix salts and mud? Nothing. What if I mix steam and mud? Nothing. What if I mix fire and mud? What do you? I got a brick. So what if I mix a brick and a brick? I get a wall. What if I mix another brick?
Kids
Another
will
brick
like
in
this
the wall.
Because they kind of do this with in Minecraft. This will kind of remind them of Minecraft.
A little bit, yeah. So Little Alchemy. My kids learned about this in school. So brick and an ocean, and you just keep guessing air and a wall, air and the sea, air. So Little Alchemy is free. And
I've got the elements now. Let me just show you, and you need to listen to this because when it first starts off, it gives you Tom Lahr's very famous song where he's made a song of all the names of the elements, and it shows you each element as he sings it. Let's just watch this for a second.
There's antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, and hydrogen, and oxygen, and nitrogen, and rhenium, and nickel, neodymium, neptunium, germanium, and iron, americium, ruthenium, uranium, europium, zirconium, lutetium.
Now, for those of you not watching video, we're seeing pictures of each of these elements plus their position in the periodic table. And if I skip through the song and just pick an element, it's really fun. So Copernicum, for instance, which is named after Nicholas Copernicus. We were just talking about him. And we can learn about the element. Oops. This is the elements in action. I don't want to buy that. So how do I cancel that? Here. There we go. You can learn about... I love this kind of stuff. Here's silver. You can learn about... This is great for a student. It's spectral table here. What its electronegativity, its boiling point, percent in the sun, in the universe, in the crust. This, by the way, comes from Wolfram Alpha. So that's kind of neat that they're using some of the Wolfram Alpha stuff. And somebody in the chat room mentioned, and I'll mention it real quickly, it's beyond my canon ability, but the most popular mathematics program in the world for teaching math is called MATLAB. And now this, you have to have MATLAB on your computer or the MathWorks cloud. So the app is free, but it's a mobile partner to your paid, and it's fairly expensive MATLAB subscription. So I just wanted to mention it. Thank you, chat room, for reminding me of that, because that is a serious mathematics tool. In fact, there are a lot of very interesting tools like that, like the Jupyter notebooks, for instance, using Python, that a lot of students will be using in math class on an iPad.
I have one more.
Yes, dear.
One more. Socratic. And this gets back to the homework help versus...
Socratic method?
Yes. It comes from the Socratic method, how you get at an answer. So Socratic lets you point your iPad at a question, at your homework, basically. I'll show an example because I don't have homework. So you move your phone... so it's an iPhone app, and see, there's my homework, and I just take a picture of it, and a balloon has a volume of 2.9 liters at 320 Kelvin. If the temperature is raised 343 K, what will the volume be? All right, mathematicians out there, see? And so it tells you how you get at the method. So there's a Q&A. You can use the unitary method, of course. You could use the gas law. So it kind of goes through the explanations. So if kids, your parents are not so great at math, it links to a Khan Academy video about that, all the laws. This is a great app. Because everybody, I hear this a lot from parents that their kids, even in like 5th or 6th grade, their math has gone beyond, it's done a Google search, beyond what they know. And so Socratic, for parents out there, is a good app. So you take the picture of your kid's homework, then you can help, then you memorize everything and pretend you already know.
You pretend you already know. That's great, because I would do that. I would sit there while they're doing their Algebra 2 homework, Googling, how do you solve a quite? Because I studied it, but I don't remember. Who remembers that?
And they do it differently now, too.
Do they?
But they do a little bit.
They have different techniques.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is fun. I like it. I forgot all about the elements. I haven't looked at this in years. And I think if you've got a kid who's interested in chemistry or science, cadmium. You know what we do with cadmium?
We put it in
I don't know.
iPhones.
Batteries, right? The treatment with dichromate gives these cadmium-plated castle nuts a gold color. It's very visual. It's fun. I really have to say, they've done a nice job with this. And what's interesting is I haven't seen it in a while, and they've added a lot of new stuff to it. So that's the elements again. But I think it's so much fun and an iPad is such a natural way to explore and learn. The Elements is available as a book. In fact, I think was a coffee table book before it was an iPad app. But it's so much more fun in the iPad world. Mm-hmm. There's some ideas for you.